Welcome to Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we're taking a look at the latest concept car from BMW, the oddly named iVision Circular.
We also have Porsche's Audi RS6 rival, the Panamera Sport Turismo, and a new compact SUV from Toyota, the Yaris Cross.
Plus the new VW Golf R Estate and the refreshed Hyundai Kona. That's all coming up later in the show, but first, the news.
Following on from the release of the new Ford Bronco earlier this year, Ford has revealed this, the Bronco Riptide. Something of a distraction from the current production issues that have delayed many customer deliveries, the Riptide showcases the various accessories available at dealerships to make their new Broncos unique. Ford says this particular car would suit a customer who enjoys open air and a free-spirited West Coast lifestyle. Some of the add-ons include 35-inch tyres, Bilstein shock absorbers, an LED light bar, and some doors that aren't really doors. All the parts on the Riptide are available to order directly from Ford, and should go some way to soften the blow for customers still waiting for their new Broncos.
When you think of a fast German estate car, it's likely the first cars that will come to mind are Audis and Mercedes. Big Autobahn missiles with outrageous performance and price tags to match. What you might not think of is a Volkswagen Golf. Well, this is the new Golf R Estate, a more practical version of Golf's latest all-wheel drive hot hatch. Following the same formula of previous versions, the new Golf R is like a GTI that's been hitting the gym. Power is up from 242 brake horsepower in the GTI to 316, while the 0 to 62 time is down to 4.9 seconds, around 0.2 seconds off the hatchback version, courtesy of a turbocharged 2-litre motor. Top speed is a hugely impressive 168 miles per hour, but only if you pay the extra cash to get the limiter removed. Naturally, the chassis has had some upgrades too, with stiffer adaptive dampers, a new progressive power steering system, bigger brakes and wider tyres. It's lower too, but it's not just the hardware that's been altered. The traction and stability control systems have also been tweaked, and there's a fancy new torque vectoring system that can split power between the front and rear axles and even between the two rear wheels for maximum grip on even the slippiest of surfaces. To set it apart from the more traditional GTI, the Golf R does without the red trim and tartan seats, instead going for a contemporary look with a big rear spoiler, quad Akrapovic exhausts and serious-looking diffuser. At the front, the changes are more subtle, with a slightly more aggressive body kit and a small but significant R badge in the grille. Inside, it's business as usual, with some R-branded sports seats and various bits of blue trim and stitching. Like all Mark 8 Golfs, the interior isn't quite as upmarket as some of its rivals, but it does at least come with plenty of goodies, chief among which is the new drift mode, which, you guessed it, turns the grippy Golf into a power-sliding hooligan at the touch of a button. It may not have the same playful styling as its closest rival, the Mini JCW Clubman, but we think this is a seriously cool and practical alternative to a hot hatchback.
BMW has unveiled a new concept car, and it's unlike anything we've seen from the brand before. Called the iVision Circular, it's a design study of a completely recycled car, hence the initially rather odd name. Naturally, it's electric, with BMW telling us that it's a vision of where they hope to be by 2040. While we find it hard to believe that this will ever make it anywhere near a production line, it's still a very cool thing. BMW's iconic kidney grills have been mimicked at the front end, with incorporated lighting, with similar hashed lights at the rear. There's plenty of glass to give the cabin an airy feel, and since this is a concept car, it has some truly enormous wheels, which look fabulous. And while this small electric Super Mini may seem like a bit of a departure from the brand's usual fare, we could see something like this eventually replacing the aging i3. The entire car is not only built from recycled materials, but those materials are recyclable themselves. To that end, the car is designed to be easily disassembled with quick-release fasteners throughout the bodywork and interior. Speaking of the interior, the iVision Circular demonstrates what can be achieved with flat-floor electric vehicle architecture, with what is essentially a living room on wheels. There is a steering wheel and some pedals, but all other controls are operated by hand gestures. We always like it when manufacturers let their hair down and build a wacky concept, and this is no exception. The i3 of the future? Maybe not quite, but the use of recycled materials is fantastic, and something which we hope to see more of in the industry.
Since its launch in 2017, the Hyundai Kona has offered crossover buyers something a bit different from the more obvious choices. It looks cool and modern and manages to stand out from the rest of Hyundai's lineup, while still remaining true to the Korean brand's design language. And now it's had a refresh. But when we say refresh, we pretty much mean restart. The new Kona looks better than ever following its heavy facelift. External updates include a new front grille, a reshaped bumper and fancy new lights all round. The front end looks like some sort of alien, particularly on the sporty looking N-line models. We're especially fond of the Audi style vents above the grille, although lower trim levels don't look quite so angry, with fewer scoops and crevices. Interior design tweaks are less significant, with a restyled centre console being the biggest aesthetic change, although there are some updated features and a new selection of trim finishes. Hyundai has thoroughly refreshed the tech and infotainment too. There's now a 10-inch digital instrument panel from the i20, and the central touchscreen has been enlarged from 7 to 8 inches and is fitted as standard with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So what about performance? Well, happily, there is a diverse range of powertrains on offer. The range-topping petrol motor uses a 1.6-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 195 brake horsepower and is available with front or four-wheel drive and paired with a 7-speed auto box. Below this, there's a 1.6-litre 134 brake horsepower diesel with a 48-volt mild hybrid system and paired with either an auto or manual box. And then there is the entry-level 118 brake horsepower 1-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol model, again available with mild hybrid power. There's an electric one too that can do up to 300 miles on a charge and hit 62 miles per hour from rest in 7.9 seconds. And if that isn't enough, a sporty Kona N with 286 brake horsepower and lots of performance parts borrowed from the i30N. However, the Hyundai has its share of competition.
Few cars in this class come close to the wild styling of the Hyundai, but this, the Toyota CHR, certainly stands out. Like the Kona, it has been updated only recently, with a bolder front profile and revised headlights, just some of the new external details. Under the bonnet too, the Toyota has a good range of engines, from a 1.2 petrol turbocharged motor all the way to a 2-litre hybrid. And inside there's new infotainment, which includes connectivity for Apple, Amazon and Android systems, although it is a little clunky and can take some getting used to. And while it is eye-catching, that sloped coupe-like roofline doesn't do much for the practicality, and in this market, that is key. So then, what about this, the Nissan Juke? The Juke pretty much started this class. It's nearly 10 years old now, and its love-it-or-hate-it styling with a strange front end and a chunkier rear end has split critics ever since. One thing is for sure though, it turns heads, even next to the Kona. But the Juke is let down by its lack of engine options. The only engine offered from launch is a 1-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol from the Micra with either a 6-speed manual gearbox or an all-new 7-speed dual-clutch automatic, replacing the old CVT transmission. It is likely though that a hybrid will join the lineup at some point, and maybe even an electric version. On the road, it doesn't feel quite as modern as it looks either, and the cabin does look rather busy and cluttered.
But for now, the lack of powertrain options that let it down, and in a segment where there's no end of variety, that won't really do. So it seems that the king of the compact crossovers has been dethroned. But with cars like the Toyota CHR and Hyundai Kona on sale, we can't say we're surprised.
Join us again after the break as we check out the new Toyota Yaris Cross and Porsche's estate car.
Still to come, Porsche versus Audi, but first...
In recent years, Toyota has been busy electrifying its range, with almost all models now available with some form of hybrid assistance. Even this, the little Yaris, is a full-series hybrid, unusual for an affordable supermini. And it's proving to be a popular recipe. The Yaris is picking up awards and sales all over the place, so it was only a matter of time before Toyota cashed in with a crossover version. And here it is. Called the Yaris Cross, this diminutive SUV completes a trio of Yaris models, including the cheeky little GR version. Built on the same TNGA platform, the Yaris Cross uses the same 1.5-litre petrol motor as the Supermini, hooked up to the same hybrid system for a total power of 114 bhp. That modest power is sent either to the wheels via a CVT transmission or straight to the batteries to increase charge, allowing the car to run on electric-only mode for short distances. It's available with either front or all-wheel drive, and it's the latter that seems like the best bet. Unlike many cars in this sector, the all-wheel drive system doesn't take up any passenger or cargo space, and it gets a more advanced double wishbone suspension setup. Looking at the Yaris Cross, it's not particularly easy to spot the Yaris influence. The SUV makeover is a good one, with hints of RAV4 and Land Cruiser, and some nice chunky dimensions. It has very good ground clearance for a crossover, and the squared wheel arches and big wheels mean it appears bigger than it actually is on first glance. Step inside and its Yaris heritage becomes more apparent. The dashboard has been more or less lifted straight from the hatchback. There are one or two changes though, like the bigger infotainment screen and a new bespoke steering wheel with lots of buttons. However, the Yaris doesn't have the market to itself, far from it. And one of our current class favourites is this.
This is the latest Renault Captur, and its French design flair is immediately apparent. Like the Toyota, the Captur is based on a Supermini, the Clio, and as such it gets not only great styling but great build quality too. In the not so distant past, Renault's build quality was a bit hit and miss, but now the Captur is filled with lovely soft-touch plastics and loads of kit. All models come with a 7-inch touchscreen and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, LED lights front and back, automatic air conditioning and a load of safety tech ensuring you stay pointing in the right direction. There are various petrol and diesel engines to choose from, as well as an E-Tech plug-in hybrid with a combined 158 brake horsepower. It has a middling range of up to 30 miles, but it's good value and a worthy rival to the Toyota.
So, is the Yaris Cross good enough to take the Captur's crown? Well, we certainly think it's in with a shot. The Cross and the other Yaris variants mark a return to form from Toyota after a few years in the wilderness. Toyota expects to sell 150,000 Yaris Crosses a year, and we wouldn't be surprised if they manage it.
The Panamera, Porsche's idea of a four-door saloon car, has always left us feeling a little cold. It's a great car, of course, but it somehow lacked the drama and style of some of its more conventional three-box competitors. This, however, is the Porsche Panamera Sport Turismo, the estate version, and straight away it stands out. The extended roofline suits the car brilliantly and makes us wonder if this is how the Panamera should have always looked. There is a small premium to pay over the saloon car, but this is a much more practical choice. There's more headroom in the back and, of course, the boot is bigger, although perhaps not by as much as you'd think. With the rear seats in place, it's only 20 litres bigger, with only an extra 50 litres when the seats are folded down. We suspect, though, that boot capacity isn't at the forefront of most Porsche buyers' minds. Instead, they'll be more interested in the performance. The Sport Turismo follows roughly the same selection of powertrain options as the saloon, starting off with the 325 brake horsepower 4. The 4S uses the same 3-litre V6 as the 4, but the power is up to just over 430, with the 0 to 62 time dropping by around a second to 4.3. Also on offer is a selection of plug-in hybrid models. The entry-level 4E hybrid makes use of the aforementioned V6 paired up to an electric motor for a combined total output of 456 horsepower, but the fastest hybrid on offer is the mighty Turbo SE hybrid. This time, the electric motor is hooked up to a twin turbocharged V8 to produce an intoxicating 690 bhp. The results are 0 to 62 in 3.2 seconds and a top speed of 196. However, the fastest Panamera on offer is the Turbo S. This makes do without the hybrid gubbins, instead using the 4-litre V8 and this time tuned up to 621 bhp. It may be down on power versus the E-hybrid, but it is lighter and shaves off 1/10 of a second on the 0 to 60 sprint. However, if Porsche wants to infiltrate the fast estate car market, it needs to beat this, the king of practical performance, the Audi RS6.
The original super estate car, the RS6, uses a version of the same V8 found in the Porsche, this time producing 592 horsepower. 0 to 62 is dealt with in just 3.6 seconds. Top speed is limited to 155, but for an extra bit of cash, Audi will take away the limiter, letting you hit 189 miles per hour. It sounds like an absolute animal then, but Audi insists that this is still a usable everyday family car. For starters, this is actually a hybrid, sort of. It uses the familiar 48-volt mild hybrid setup that we've seen in other big Audis, allowing for quieter stop-starts and better fuel economy. To further improve that, the RS6 also features cylinder deactivation, allowing half of the cylinders to shut down when on a cruise. Inside, it's just as impressive, if a little more conventional. There are a few fancy RS bits like the sport seats trimmed in Napa leather and Alcantara, and a special steering wheel with aluminium gear shift paddles. But it's otherwise a standard A6 cabin, and that's no bad thing. It perhaps doesn't feel quite as special as a Porsche's cabin, but the fit and finish is just as good.
If you're after a fast car, the Panamera Sport Turismo is superb. But if you're after a fast estate car, it's the Audi that makes the most sense. Its extra practicality makes it a great everyday car and still our favourite fast family car.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we preview Renault's all-new EV, the Megane E-Tech.